Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for Stand Out from Other Virtual Event Platforms, Offer Engagement Analytics. My name is Aaron Kayumi. I lead product marketing at Symbol.ai. Before Symbol, I was at Kong and Rapid API, both companies in the API space, where we hosted a lot of virtual events, which personally, I believe, helped those companies go on to become unicorns. So this topic of how do you host and deliver really engaging virtual events is near and dear to my heart. My colleague Marcelo leads our solutions engineering team here at Symbol.ai. Previously, he was at Expedia, Twilio, and Oracle. Marcelo, do you want to say hi?
Hello, everybody. Welcome aboard.
Awesome. So before we dive into our content today, in case folks are newer to Symbol.ai, I just want to give you a quick kind of recap of sort of who we are and the perspective that we bring to this topic. So at Symbol.ai, 2 years ago, we launched our conversation intelligence platform. And today we're excited to be working with thousands of developers and hundreds of businesses, from venture-backed unicorns to Fortune 500 enterprises. By the end of our 30 minutes together today, you'll understand how to transform attendee experiences at virtual events and deliver value to event organizers with AI-driven analytics. We'll start off by talking about what are the key trends and challenges related to delivering AI-driven experiences. Then we'll share our vision for using AI to empower event organizers with engagement analytics. And then we'll close by sharing some actionable next steps for you. So let's start by talking about the trends that are bringing us together today. Today's world has higher expectations than ever for digital experiences. With the customer experience expectations that have been set by tech giants like Amazon and Google, and digital native brands that are disrupting established industries, today, people see it as table stakes for platforms to be able to deliver personalized insights and recommendations, learn from their behavior and preferences, whether that's their spoken feedback or simply their behavior scrolling through a page. You know, as we all know, the advances in AI and machine learning are part of what make these things possible. Because of all this, it's no surprise that a recent McKinsey report found that 76% of consumers get frustrated when companies fail to deliver personalized interactions, for example. So what does all this mean for virtual event platforms? It means that in today's AI-driven world, expectations are higher than ever for attendees. And your event organizers and users are arriving to their virtual events with these same high expectations. So now that we've shared a bit about our vision, I would like to hear a bit about how you think of this. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up a poll here. All right, and we seem to be having a technical difficulty with pulling up our poll, so I'll just, there we go, great. Yeah, so if you could just take a minute here and go ahead and respond to these questions. Basically, when you think of customer experience for your virtual event platform, which of the following are kind of key areas where you're hoping to improve? I'll go ahead and give people another second to respond. Okay, great. And then we'll go ahead and share these results. Yeah, so, some across the board interest, and then really strong interest in offering these really immersive experiences, which is especially critical when you think of the move to the virtual events in particular. So for all of these factors, really what's going to be key to delivering them is having AI-driven experiences as part of these virtual events. And so why is that? Well, only with AI are virtual events platforms going to be able to understand conversations at scale and take action on that information. So what is a conversation? Like, how does that kind of connect to what we're talking about here? Well, a conversation is any time that data is exchanged between two or more parties. So in a virtual event, that could be between attendees and attendees, between attendees and speakers, or even speakers and speakers. And obviously, if a human's attending, they could do that. But when you're having thousands of attendees across dozens of different events, you need AI to be able to do that at scale. The conversation data that's extracted from your events can then be mined after the events to gain insights on things like what were the topics at that event that resonated most with attendees, or other things that are interesting to the organizers. And then finally, setting that technology foundation of having the ability to understand all of the conversation data exchanged at the event sets you up to be able to do things like deliver engaging real-time experiences during the events for the attendees. So the end result of all of this and the value that AI-driven experiences provide for your platforms are driving adoption and growth. So that sounds great. AI obviously can be very transformative. Before you go rush off and try to build AI models, though, let's take a moment and look at what are some challenges to doing so. First, there's the time and money. It takes time and specialized expertise to get AI models that can do this. So first you have to hire a team, and that could take months. And then once you hire them, they're not cheap because these are very specialized skills. Probably at minimum, you'll need a PhD in machine learning, an API engineer to create APIs, and then a data engineer to manage all of that data from the events. And you're going to need them on board. It's not just a one-time contract. So you're looking at 100 to 200K for each of them. So that adds up to 300 to 600K of recurring costs from salary alone, even without thinking of the infrastructure costs. Second big challenge is around complexity. And this is an interesting one because AI is very hyped in media today, and a lot of organizations don't realize the extent to which there are still many unsolved problems in the space. For example, you might have heard of natural language processing AI and assume, oh, that can easily understand the context of any conversation. But NLP is actually really good at understanding and extracting meaning from structured text data, which is actually very different from getting meaning out of unstructured voice conversation data. So you need kind of a different model for that. And the contextual understanding from that kind of unstructured data is a hard problem to solve for. Finally, even if you make it through those first two hurdles, few organizations then are equipped to also make the necessary integration and infrastructure investments to support thousands of users concurrently in real time. But that's absolutely essential if you're a virtual events platform who supports global customers. So based on all this, you can probably understand why for many organizations, they consider the barrier to entry for AI too high. And that's why, if you look across virtual event platforms today, the adoption of AI features is still in the beginning stages. However, what if specialized conversation understanding AI models were available to you as a service? That would mean for your virtual event platform, you could programmatically integrate AI-driven experiences into your products. As we talked about, that would drive adoption and growth in the long term, and in the immediate term, you'd be able to get to market in days rather than months with these capabilities that set you apart in terms of customer experience. So what could this actually look like for a virtual event that's been empowered with AI-driven experiences and analytics. Well, we could really think of it in 3 buckets: what happens before the event, during the event, and after the event. And for this example, let's just imagine that you have a customer for your virtual event platform, and they provide B2B SaaS for manufacturing companies, and they're organizing a virtual conference. So before that virtual event, the organizer could configure specific phrases and intents that they want to flag in attendee conversations. For example, when do their attendees talk about budget, or when do they talk about challenges with other SaaS vendors for manufacturing companies? They could also look at their own customer calls and see what were the topics that their prospects and their pipeline were talking about, and then make sure that the event touches on those topics. Then during the event, the organizers could monitor the event sentiment in real time and receive recommendations on how to improve where engagement is low among attendees. And the attendees at the event can receive topics and question and answer summaries in real time. So they're continuously engaged. Finally, afterwards, all the conversations could be analyzed and do things like generate highly qualified leads. For example, if someone was asking about some of the new product areas for the company, or follow up with attendees who mentioned things like having budget or challenges with existing vendors. So now that we've shared our vision at a high level, we want to again do a quick poll and hear more about what you think would add most value to your platform. I'm pulling it up here in just a minute. Great. And so for this poll, we're wondering, which of the following things do you feel would add the most value for your virtual events platform? We covered a lot of information there, and I'm curious to hear what's top of mind for your organization. So we'll run this for another 10 seconds or so, and then share the results. Okay, and let's go ahead and share the results. Awesome, yeah, so pretty across the board interest. Looks like monitoring and improving sentiment and generating highly qualified leads are a bit more top of mind, but interest in kind of all the different areas there. So now that we've kind of presented that high level vision, I want to pass things over to Marcelo to show us really kind of more clearly what this can look like.
Good, thanks, Aaron. Just in case if you have any questions, please use the Q&A functionality in this meeting. So just feel free to ask any questions that you have throughout this presentation here. Thanks a lot, Aaron, for covering all the the foundational aspects of this this presentation. So let me walk you through a number of different things you're going to see during the demo part of it, and all the building blocks that I'm going to get into the details in a second. So the first part of the demo consists in going over a post-event analytics dashboard, which aggregates data from several events. And also we're going to drill down into a particular event analytics, providing new information at multiple levels. So all the generated data there you're going to see here today are coming directly from the Symbol APIs. The second part of the demo goes through the real-time capabilities that Symbol also offers, while providing you AI-driven events data, metrics, and analytics. Everything you're going to see next takes advantage of the fully programmable conversation intelligence platform that Symbol provides. So without any further ado, let's dive it right in. So in this events analytics platform aggregated view demo, so several events were processed with the Symbol APIs, and there are a number of relevant things to be discussed here. So starting from the top left, you see a graph of the trending topics for all the events that have been processed for our exercise here. Topics are key drivers of the conversation, so they can be summarized as the most important keywords or phrases in a conversation. Most models are dependent on the frequency, the probability distribution, supervised training, while Symbol uses a topic model based on the internal conversation structure of how concepts are interrelated in a discussion, providing you better results than other vendors out there. On the right, so you see the aggregated sentiments of all events, where 42% of them were classified as analyzed as positive, 21% were analyzed as neutral, and 27% of the events that we processed were considered, the overall sentiment was negative. And that's based on the interpretation of the general thought, a feeling, a sense of an object being presented, or a situation during the conversation. The Symbol Sentiment API works in a couple of different ways. So this particular graph that we are exploring right now was generated from the speech-to-text processing at the sentence level, but it also works at the topic level. So you see that more into the details in a few moments when I go into a different graph. So moving down one level into the trending questions. So the number of trending questions being asked during the events. So Symbol captures any explicit question or request for information that comes out during the conversation, whether answered or not. Anything that's recognized as a question pointed to someone, implicit questions, questions that are actionable in nature, while ignoring questions part of a casual small talk. So for scrolling down a little more, so for the trending questions, we're also able to pinpoint what are the meetings where these questions have been asked. So you can see, the two different questions were asking different meanings or the same meanings as they have been asked. Let's keep moving down into the business key indicators to be tracked during the events. As you can see, the vast majority of the tracking information was related to artificial intelligence language, as we got a stunning 71 occurrences for the events that we have processed for this particular demo. Now, when you look at the collected data out of the tracking information that we have, so you see the sentences where the tracking information was matched or generated from the contextual meaning of the business tracker. The words in bold, they represent a perfect match to the terms used to configure the tracker vocabulary, while non-exact matches are described next to the identified meaning of the sample data being used for the training. So trackers are an extremely powerful Symbol API that allow you to create user-defined entities to track occurrences of any characteristics or events in a conversation with minimum amount of sample data. You can use trackers in a variety of different use cases, from compliance to call quality, from customer satisfaction to sales opportunities, and you can get results in a very short period of time with almost zero effort. The last one on this page here is a panel that describes or shows the event participants. So the event participants panel that allows you to measure the number of speakers, the number of attendees, and a number of metrics that we're going to see next. So right now, to go from this 10,000 feet aggregated view into the event details. So let's look into one of these events data. So this first event that we have here on the list, so it is called Go Beyond Speech Recognition. It was an event that we had with our co-founder and CEO, Surbi. So being interviewed while Aaron and I had the opportunity to participate during the event recording. So let's have a look at this one. I'm going to go ahead and click on that particular event. So now I can see the details specific to that particular event. At the very top, so you see the title of the event, Go Beyond Speech Recognition, the speaker or the main speaker of that event, as well as the date, the duration, the speakers, the attendees. So we're 4 total, so 2 speakers and 2 attendees. The first piece of data that we're going to look at is the sentiment analysis. So of this event, so where it was very positive, as we can see from this graph, with some of the key moments identified around 4 minutes. It was a trending upwards trending sentiment classified or analyzed at that moment. At around 28 minutes, there was another one, and in finishing up on a very positive sentiment at around the 55-minute mark. So on the right, so you see the overall duration of the event, so 66 minutes total. The total talk time, so around 85% of the event were talk time. 50% of the event with no overlaps in between the speakers was considered silence. A very interesting, let me scroll down a little further. So very interesting piece of data here are the topics extracted during the event and plotted into this cloud word graph. So since I have mentioned, so these are all the topics being discussed. So since I had mentioned that in the previous section about the sentiments being also available per topic, so let's have a look at what a topic sentiment is going to look like. So topic-based sentiments allow you to accurately detect the segment of the discussion until which the topic has an impact to calculate the sentiments of the topics discussed. And that's what you see on this particular graph here. So which the green bars represent the positive sentiments for these topics, the blue ones were calculated as neutral, and then the red ones are the negative sentiments that are calculated for this particular one. In this case, we don't have any negative sentiments, as you could see from other metrics being returned from this event analysis. So that's why you don't see the red bars in any shape or form on this particular topic sentiment graph. Close this one for a second, move on into the right. So on the right, you see the clear speaker metrics from who was talking most of the time. So the speaker talk time is where I'm looking at right now. So you see the nature of this event being an interview. So it's pretty clear, who was doing most of the talk and who was, making comments or asking questions at that moment. So the next panel shows a number of different questions being asked by the speakers and the attendees of the event, and what a point the question was asked and who asked that question. So questions are absolutely great for things like lead generation on a particular event. So that was one of the points, in one of the polls, that was, a very much a major need that events platforms, they have to, how do you really do the lead generation? And at that moment, you have, the participant information, the timestamp, the question itself, as well as the reference to the message that you can correlate with the topics being discussed. So the next panel is another quite interesting, this one. So another quite interesting one. So it talks about, Symbol Analytics API, which shows you, how fast or slow a particular speaker was during the event. So in this case, Surbi was, speaking at 198 words per minute, while Marcus, the other person on the other speaker on this particular event, was speaking at 174. So while this information can be used as a great guidance for a speaker, there are many other applications to this, including agents in a contact center environment, for example, students using education apps, recruitment applications. So we have tons of different customers using Symbol, in particular the talking pace metric for recruiting and interviews, where you can kind of, we can calculate the words per minute and see how fast or slow a speaker is. The last panel of this particular part of the demonstration talks about business trackers identified during the event. And we can look into the details of what speaker triggered that tracker, how it was triggered, and it was if that was a exact match or not specifically data that was provided as the sample, as I have described it before. So that concludes the second part of the demo. So we're gonna move back into the presentation here, and I'm gonna just run a quick video for you. Moving on to the last part of this demo. So that's the real-time information provided. So I'm gonna just play the video and talk through it, what is really happening here. I'll pause in a second just to show you the different capabilities that we're gonna be seeing. So this is all part provided by the Symbol Streaming API. So this is an example that would help users on your platform by consuming some of the information you already saw early on and taking advantage of the simple speech to text capabilities for generating closed captions, and as you see here on the screen. So this is a great way to start thinking about accessibility features in your own application, in your own event platform. So I'm gonna move it down a little bit into the next panel that we have on this application. And now you see on the left the transcripts generated, which provide you the final formatted message for capture the user sentences. On the right, you can also see the insights, which are the questions, action items, and follow-ups. I'm going to pause here for a second. And follow-ups being captured during the conversation. An interesting angle to this is that all action items are generated with action phrases, assignees, and due dates, as you can see on this particular action item over here. So Marcelo needs to double check and give you an answer by Tuesday. So that's a critical example for an action item that has been captured during the meeting, not exactly the same sentence, but an action item that was captured. Same thing with questions, questions being captured during the meeting as well. Down here, in terms of topics, so topics, as I have described it before, so they are captured during the, analyzing the structure of the conversation, or the most relevant topics to be captured and displayed on this application, and also the sentiments of these particular ones. Very good. So the next thing that we're going to see in here is we're going to go back and see how trackers could be used on this. So trackers was not even visible until this point. So if you didn't capture any trackers, so we're not going to display anything as some sort of a vision or guidance for this particular how this demonstration was created. So trackers, we used to use trackers to demonstrate trackers. So in the way that, imagine a way to customize what's being tracked for your own business. So that's a good way to think about how trackers can be useful to you. So other than that, you can configure multiple trackers for the same meeting. And you also see another example in there for a promotion mention. You can capture product information. You can capture, if someone is talking about your competitors on your own platform. So there's a good number of different things that you can do and that you can use trackers for. So going to the next panel on this particular application. So you see the overall sentiment analysis and the user talk time and metrics. And for each one of the speakers, so you can see, what are the ranges. So it goes, the sentiment analysis go from +1 to -1, and then 0 being the neutral. And then you see, the graph moving according to what is being said and what is being spoken on this particular one. The overall sentiment being classified as neutral for this meeting used as the demonstration part. Meeting analytics, talk time metrics. So who was, talking, who was, talking more or less, and what was the overall metric being analyzed. Last but not least, you can also see the speaker pace in the format of words per minute. So all of these real-time capabilities are readily available for thousands of simultaneous users with minimal integration efforts to be implemented in your own application. And that's pretty much all we had for today's demo. Thanks a lot, and back to you, Aaron.
Awesome. Thanks, Marcelo, for the great overview. And I think that gives a vision of what can be done real time during the event, what can be done with analytics post-event. One of the most common questions we get after kind of seeing all that is, okay, how do we actually get started and add these things to our platform? Well, luckily, we've already helped many leaders in the virtual event space on their journey. And from that, we can share with you what's our recommended path for adding AI-driven experiences to your product roadmap. Obviously, each business needs different, but this is what we've seen in general works well. So in general, we recommend a crawl, walk, run approach. So first, that starts out with getting the basic transcription in place and even getting that going in real time. And then also doing things like getting conversation topics, analytics, and some of the trackers or the tracking that Marcelo was showing, getting that going. And that can be more being used post-event primarily in that kind of first phase. Then in the second phase, it's really about kind of leveling up what's happening live in real time so that you're really improving the experience for those end user attendees at the events. Doing things like those conversation topics that Marcella was showing, or those Q&As, actually surfacing those live during your events. And then also kind of going more in depth in your analytics and tracking. So having trackers that are not just geared towards certain keywords and phrases, but actually looking at what are the intents that the attendees have at events. And then finally, in the last phase is really about taking that conversation data that you're getting from the events and then using it to drive even more business value, whether that's generating highly qualified leads based on the actions that people are taking, or it's making recommendations live to organizers. And this step is last because it'll require some business logic on your end, like how exactly are you going to define what makes a lead highly qualified? You need to specify what are the topics and questions that'll signal that. So that's why that one tends to be last. So as next steps, we're happy to discuss with you on what are the best ways to integrate conversation intelligence into your roadmap. Our team has mentioned worked with other virtual event platforms, so I'm happy to share our knowledge with you in a free consultation. We also make our platform available to go ahead and try out. We have a free forever plan that's great for POCs. You can use up to 1,000 minutes per month forever on that. And then if you just want to kind of capture some of the things we've talked about, there's also a link to a page on our website which has some of these things. We've gone ahead and dropped these links in the chat as well. And with that, we have time for a couple of questions. So let's go ahead and see questions that have been submitted here. Pull these up. Okay, first one, and I think I'll kick this to Marcelo. Does Symbol support real-time event even at large scale? So for example, if you've got thousands of concurrent attendees at an event.
Yep, precisely right. And I think I have described this one during the presentation where the way we are deployed and structured. So it does allow a event platform, to be deployed and use, the capabilities that we have for, thousands of concurrent users and attendees in different ways. So you can have, one speaker, multiple attendees, multiple speakers, multiple attendees, and a large amount of attendees and users attending your meetings.
Awesome, thanks. Okay, next question here. So someone's asking if we already have a speech-to-text solution we're using, do we then need to switch to using Symbol for speech-to-text? Like, is that the only way we'll be able to use the Symbol features? So, quick answer there. It's very common where there will already be a speech-to-text solution in place. You can easily use Symbol's intelligence features alongside another speech-to-text solution, or you can make the move to Symbol speech-to-text. So it really supports both scenarios. Anything you would add there, Marcelo?
I think this is a really relevant question, and I think you already answered the way I would answer as well. So I don't think you are dependent on the speech-to-text, to be honest, because you can use Symbol intelligence features and capabilities, with any particular speech-to-text solution that you already have in place. So there's no rip and replace, but there is a complementary, technology that can be used on top of it.
Yeah, definitely. And if you don't already have a solution for that, it is included with Symbol. So, that's very popular with our users. Okay, and then I think we have time for one or two more questions here. I'll kick this one to Marcelo. How long does it take to try out the APIs and build a live POC?
Yeah, you can try it out in a day. Depending on what, because there are a number of different APIs and capabilities that we have. So you go from live to what we call asynchronous API. So that allows you to process a recorded presentation, an MP3 file, an MP4 file, WAV file, a number of different file formats that we support. You can plug it into your telephony. There's a good number of different things that you can try out, and in one day you can do a lot. So that's very API centric, and then developer oriented, API centric. You can try things out pretty quickly. I would not imagine having a POC for longer than a couple of weeks.
Awesome. So really seeing value quickly there. Okay, we got time for one more question, and I see someone's asking about, you talked about trackers. Can you explain more what exactly is the functionality included there? Yeah, so quick, quick kind of context on that. So trackers are basically give you the ability to custom classify or kind of create custom classifiers for things like keywords, phrases, as well as more contextual understanding like intents. And this is really kind of one of the most popular and powerful capabilities of Symbol, because it allows you to really quickly be able to identify areas of interest across a lot of data. Anything else you'd add there, Marcelo?
I would say most of the things that we have seen here are out of the box, so which gives you that speed to solution or speed to market. Trackers allows you to customize in any shape or form you want. So that's one different way to describe it in terms of, okay, so I'm happy with all the results and all the information that I'm getting out of this. How can you put my own keywords, my own logic, my own, my own information in there to be tracked during a event? And trackers can be used in both ways. You can use trackers in real time. You can also apply trackers to a recorded event. So it's a very powerful thing that I would love for you all, to explore.
Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for joining and your time, and have a great day.